Perhaps you've seen that kids video Over the Hedge, where the dog is always looking for something to play with, and the two words that trigger him to do anything in life are play and ball. If he sees a ball, he's just after that ball. He doesn't care what's going on. And if you say the word play, he always wants to play. He always wants to play. But he's big, and so he knocks everything over, kind of like Clifford, the big red dog. Well, we used to have a dog like that. In fact, we've had two dogs like that. Big, strong, obnoxious dogs. Dogs that love to play and they love to chase anything. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and why would I be telling you about dogs? Well, when I say you have to get a new leash on life, I want you to picture our black lab. Our black lab was probably 95 pounds or so, but like every Labrador retriever, our black lab loved to retrieve, and he didn't care what it was, a squirrel, a kid, a rabbit. If it came by and it was moving, he had to chase it. That was his thing. And I remember one day in the park when all of our kids were in the toddler age range, I punted a football as far as I could, just to see how far I could kick it. Not thinking my tiny little 100-pound wife was strapped on the other end of the leash around the dog's neck. Fortunately, she was able to let go because he took off after that football, yanked her completely off of her feet, slammed her shoulder to the concrete on the sidewalk, and then took off 100 yards after that football because once it bounced, it just kept rolling further away. That same dog nearly drowned himself getting into a lake because he was after that football. And every time we would press down on it to press it against the ground, it would go underwater and pop up somewhere else, and he refused to leave the water until he got the football. We had to change the kind of leash that we put on him so that it would restrict him from pulling away. Not long after that, we had a Siberian Husky, and he didn't want to chase anything unless it was alive. It was kind of like a ball is boring. If I go get that and bring it back, it doesn't do anything. But a cat, a squirrel, a rabbit, and we lived on a nature preserve. So deer and cats and anything that moved, he was going to chase it. He didn't want to eat it, but he would play it to death. See, sometimes in our life, we get those moments where life seems to be out of control like that. It's so driven by something else, we lose all perspective. It's easy to get overwhelmed when our job is driving everything, when our relationships are driving everything, when our finances, for better or worse, are driving everything, when we seem to be losing control of everything. And we need a new leash on life. We need to put maybe a choker collar. We need an electric collar to say, here's the boundaries, you've got to stop here. But I want to give you a moment to show you just how powerful a change of perspective can be. Picture this for a moment. You're going on a skydiving trip, and just as you reach that place where the pilot and the jump master say, we've reached the minimum altitude to jump. From here, we can jump safely. Parachutes will deploy, everything will be good. This is the place we can jump from. And they open the door and you look out, and straight ahead of you, clouds. And to your left, clouds. And to your right, clouds. And below you, clouds. In fact, it's like you're enveloped in one giant cloud. And you're stuck here and you're thinking, how do I know where I am? How do I know if I jump now, I'll even land on the earth, because I can't even see it from here. I know you've been in that moment in life when everything seems out of control and everything around you seems foggy and unclear. That overwhelm can quickly lead to anxiety. That overwhelm can quickly lead to depression. And some people will even go as far as suicide as a result of that, or at least retreat from life. Or they live there and they just stay there and they regret that they've never moved on. But if the pilot said, let's climb another 500 feet, what you might see is all of the earth beneath you with the sun shining in the shadows and one little strip of clouds that looks like a hot dog. Because moments before you were inside that cloud, you were surrounded by everything that it was. Now you've risen above that cloud. Sometimes you just have to change your perspective. And I want you to know that the stories that you tell, I mean, you could spend a fabulous vacation in Morocco, and if you come back Enthralled with the excitement and experiences, those are the stories you'll tell. And if you come back and complain about the cobblestone streets and the long walks and the hot days, those are the stories that you'll tell. And those stories will soon become the stories that dictate your life. So when your perspective only sees the cobblestone streets and the long walks and the hot sun and the rude people because they don't speak English to you, you're living in the cloud. When you can change the stories that you tell, not the long saga. We're not talking about creating a TED Talk. We're talking about a 30-second to 90-second revelation of your story, a memory recalled and brought to the surface in the positive light. You know you can walk through a moment and see it positive or negative in the same moment. My challenge to you is to find the ways to craft those stories where hope and positivity, where the sunlight from rising above the cloud is what you see and what you tell, rather than the cobblestone streets, the long walks, and the hot days. The stories that will bring hope to your life, that will reveal hope in other people's lives. Those stories are within your control. Get a new leash on life. Get a hold of those things. Get control of those things. And don't let overwhelm bring you down. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.